Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, Monday, whatever day you are listening. Thank you for being here. I hope everything is going swell for you. Before I get into things, let me just share real quick. I recorded an intro before this. This is like my third take. And it didn't go quite as well as I'd hoped. So I'm like, oh yeah, let me delete this. You guys, I thought I fucking deleted the whole episode I just recorded. Oh my God. I had a mini heart attack. I had my face in the palm of my hand. I was so devastated. And then I just zoomed out on Audacity. And there was my vocal track right there. Oh, sweet Lord. That scared me, and I feel great. That being said, hi. Thank you for being here. Welcome to episode, what is this, 16? I'm not even going to check. We're going to go off the gut and say 16. Today's episode is about finding balance and the irony that I am saying that I'm recording this so late on Monday, as if I have any balance right now. But the goal is that with today's episode, I do a little bit of unpacking. I get a little vulnerable with you guys. I talk a little bit about what's been going on in my life and a little bit of my personal struggles, in hopes that this is somehow relatable to one of you out there listening. And maybe we can both kind of work on these things together, find some solutions, and slowly march our way towards betterment. But yeah, I talk about balance in life. I talk about how your identity affects directly the habits that you have. I talk about what growth looks like, how accumulating small, disciplined little wins over time is the real way to actual meaningful change in your life. Because goddamn, it feels like we get a new thing every 48 hours. And it's so hard to be able to tell what real, meaningful execution on your dreams looks like. So yeah, we get a little vulnerable. I try to make each solo episode slightly different in one way or the other, and this one is kind of me just unpacking my own shit out loud, but hopefully also in a digestible way. And I also aim to make this a bit of a short and sweet episode. So I hope all of these things provide some sort of value to you. If you feel any bit relatable and want to reach out on a specific point I said, I'm all ears as always. You can DM me on Instagram, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. So with that being said, I think we've touched on everything, and we can just get straight into the episode. So I'm your host, Tub. This is episode 16. As far as I'm aware, it's going to be so embarrassing if it's not, but I'm standing on it. Thank you very much. Let's get it started. Hi, friends. So today's episode, I'm going to attempt to make kind of short and sweet, a little bit more digestible. And ironically, I think the topic relates to why I'm making this a little bit of a more bite-sized episode than normal. And I am going to do things a little different on this one. We're going solo again, as I'm sure I already said in the intro. I love to repeat myself, but I think I'm going to use this as an opportunity to kind of just talk to you guys as if you were a friend that I was opening up to a little bit or going to for a bit of advice, and kind of just sharing a little part of where my life is currently at, seeing if anyone else out there is currently relating, or if they were relating to something similar in the recent past. But lately, my mind has been on time management a lot and executing on your goals, what you want out of life. A more Disney Channel way of putting it would be following your dreams. And I'll kind of just share a little bit about how where my headspace has been at lately on my day-to-day basis. I kind of have a few main goals right now that I feel like I have been falling short of. And it has been a little hard, a little discouraging, beating myself up a little bit because, I don't know, I set myself some pretty high expectations at times and don't like to dwell on the past much. So the con of that is not being able to recognize how far I've come with certain things. But as of late, some of these main categories have been, in my opinion, this podcast. I feel like I could be doing so much more with what I've been putting out. I know that, ironically enough, I've had people even reach out to me about last episode saying it was their favorite one I had made, which was, I mean, it moves me every time anyone ever messages me. It makes my whole day. I smile for 5 minutes straight after replying back. So I always appreciate that stuff, but I just feel like I haven't been giving this its fair share of my time and effort and energy, and it's kind of been a little bit of a cycle where I'm beating myself up about it, and it doesn't make me feel great, and then I kind of feel a little down because of it, and then that kind of like stifles my motivation a little, And so I've been on a little bit of a downward spiral with that, and particularly because I want to get video up and going for you guys. I have a lot of the setup done. I'm right there. And I think it's happening soon, if not next week, finally. But it feels overdue. It feels like I have been spending way too much time just accepting the minimum, and that isn't the person that I want to be. That's not who I've set out to be. And so there's been a little bit of an inner monologue on that has not been great. On top of that, I have had some goals in the back of my head, some areas that I've set my eyes on, particularly around working out more and starting to cook for myself and get somewhat good at it so that I can prep my own meals and make sure that my nutrition is up to par with my fitness that I have planned. And I have not been on top of that. I also somehow watch my paycheck disappear every week. And so I feel like my money has been a little mismanaged. And so I have kind of been in this rut, you guys. I've been a little down, and not necessarily to the point where I think it's concerning, but it's just been a little hard, You tell yourself what kind of a person you want to be. You get this image of who you can be after some hard work, and you watch, like, you blink, dude, and like fucking 4 months have gone by, and you're like, what did I do with that time? I could have been so far along with what I wanted, or so much closer to the goal that I set out. And you just feel like it's just been a wash. And so that's been a bit of a personal struggle for myself. And I think a part of it is because I know I have the time to do it. And I know I have the means to do it. But for whatever reason, label it perfectionism, label it too high of a standard for myself, but for whatever reason, I have not been following through on it. And I think a huge part of it, at least what it feels like, is just time mismanagement. I think that when I get off of work, even though I work a 10-hour shift, I could be chipping away, even if it's the littlest of things. I can be chipping away at what I want. Or when I have my weekends and I know I have a whole Sunday with no plans, I could make leaps and bounds of progress, and I don't. Maybe it's just the fact that I'm intimidated by the idea of making leaps and bounds of progress in one day that stifles me. But there's been this disconnect between my thoughts and my actions. And it really makes me sit back and think about my time management. And I'll use this as an opportunity to kind of dive a little more into it. But utilized ChatGPT the other day to kind of do a bit of a meta-analysis on my life. I wrote up kind of a journal entry for each part of my life that I felt like could be improving, or that I was falling short of my own standards, or maybe was a concern. And obviously, because I like to keep my private life private, I won't share what every single one of those entries was, but I then uploaded them into ChatGPT and made it do a bit of a meta-analysis on my thoughts. And for people who maybe are unfamiliar with the term, a meta-analysis is where you do a study on a bunch of studies. So someone can, let's say they're looking at hypertrophy training, and you're trying to figure out what workouts and what techniques build the most muscle. And so if you wanted to do a meta-analysis on that, you would get a bunch of studies together that are all pertaining to hypertrophy and muscle growth, and then you would do an analysis on that, and that's a meta-analysis. So my thought process was, well, if I give ChatGPT all of these journal entries on various aspects of my life, it'll be able to do a meta-analysis on my life and be able to give me some recommendations as to what I can change and what I can do differently in order to break out of this cycle that I felt like I've been in. And one of the things that it particularly touched on, which I found arguably the most important, and funny enough, it always kind of is a bit of a humbling gut punch when you get told advice, whether it be from an AI or from a friend or a family member, where you get told advice that you know is right and you already knew before. Pardon my water break. But you already knew. It's not new information. It's not novel. It's not groundbreaking. It's not really particularly revolutionary, or doesn't give you any sort of epiphany, but it's super relevant, and perhaps you just forgot. And the piece of advice that I got, or the important nugget that I pulled from this analysis of my own thoughts, was I have had a mismatch with my mindset and my identity, because usually your identity is what drives your actions. So, allow me to elaborate. If anyone has read the book Atomic Habits, they talk about this fairly early on in the book. But they talk about how, and also one of my favorite books of all time, This Is Marketing by Seth Godin. Amazing. I highly recommend it for anyone who is trying to understand human behavior in a market. I know it's like, probably it sounds like the grayest, most boring book to 90% of you, but oh my God, I've read that book like 6 times. I swear by it. It is fascinating. However, they talk about the role that identities play in behavior. And one of the most powerful statements is, people like us do things like this. And obviously the negative form of that also applies. So people like us don't do things like that. And that is really, like, if not half, more than half the battle, is telling yourself, like for instance, I don't smoke weed, I don't smoke nicotine, cigarettes, vape, nothing. And I know that a huge reason that I never have, or that I don't, is because I constantly in the back of my head have this reinforcing identity of, I'm not a smoker. I don't smoke. I'm not the type of person who smokes. I don't vape, and it doesn't even feel like some sort of like moral high ground or some high horse position. It really just feels like a label that is me, that I identify with, that feels comfortable, feels like home. And so if someone, offers me their vape, I'm just like, oh no, thanks. Like, I don't vape. But it's not like me saying I don't want to vape or I shouldn't vape. It's, I'm not the type of person who vapes. And the same thing applies to everything that you do in life. And whether or not you realize it, the behavior that you are doing is reinforced by some sort of identity that you have, whether it be conscious or subconscious. And this means the good and the bad. And so I have not, like, I know a huge pivotal thing is if I could just alter the foundation in which a lot of my mindsets are on, which is identity, and just start saying, like, I am the type of person who cooks at home. I'm the type of person who likes to make meals that fit my diet. I'm the type of person who gets a workout in right after work or right before work. I'm the type of person who constantly is making strides towards this end goal that I want for the podcast, right? It sounds kind of like woo-woo and self-actualizing and manifesting and all that stuff, but it really is rooted in like deep psychology. And I can witness it in my daily life all the time. For instance, I always beat myself up for not getting enough sleep. Like right now, I'm recording way past my bedtime because I was in Dylan's room and we were going down memory lane, just looking at old photos and old videos from a decade ago or decade plus. And it was just amazing. It was a great moment. I loved every minute of it. And although I like to identify as I'm the type of person where sleep is important to me, my Achilles heel is I am the type of person where my friends matter the most to me and my moments with them matter the most to me. And I truly have this mindset of, at the end of the day, when I'm on my deathbed, the only thing I will have is my shared memories with the people that I love or have loved. And those are what make life worth it. And so those moments always get top priority for me over everything. And there's a lot of pros and cons to that. So like on a random Monday when you're having a stroll down memory lane, there's no place that I would rather be. And that includes going down to my room and recording a fucking podcast episode like the responsible me should. And I think that I need to shift that mindset a little. I need to, maybe it has to be something along the lines of like, nothing is more important to me than like cornerstone moments with the people that I love, or important moments, or pivotal moments, or something like that. So we're not every single little thing gets my full attention constantly, and everything else gets put to the wayside. But moving forward, that's going to be one of the things that I am going to try to work on and shift a little bit, because and of course I don't want to go full monk mode. I don't want to go, on with the grind set and like cut off all of my social life just for the sake of making progress in a project. I know there needs to be balance, and that's kind of what I want this entire episode to be around, is finding balance and finding what works, what makes you both fulfilled and feel like you're working towards something greater that will provide even further fulfillment later down the road. And it's been difficult, you guys. It has not been easy, and I don't know. Obviously, the instinctual monkey brain that I have just wants it to be easy, but I don't know if I would actually choose that. I don't know if it would feel like as big of an accomplishment if, fucking 7 years go by and I've done everything that I set out to do. I don't know if I would feel the sense of accomplishment or fulfillment if it was easy the whole time. So I got to find that gratitude in the struggle a little, and just talking about it out loud helps. But yeah, it's a mindset thing. If you, dear listener, right now can think about the way that you go about food, or the way that you go about family, or the way that you go about alcohol or sex or relationships, every habitual behavior that you have is attached to an identity trait that you have. For instance, my idea of like, here's one that I do, which is, corny and like a stereotypical white person thing, but every morning that I wake up early, if I feel well rested and the weather looks peaceful outside, I am the type of person who likes to go on a walk. It's one of my favorite things to do if it's the weekend and I didn't stay up super late, so I don't wake up at like 10 a.m. And I look out my window and there's no wind. It's calm. It's quiet. The sun is doing the opposite of whatever golden hour is for dawn instead of dusk. And it's just this really serene part of the day that is kind of sacred and not really touched or bothered. And to just go outside and soak it in, to be in that environment and enjoy good weather, beautiful scenery, and just that stillness. I love it. I love it so much. And so there's this part of me that's like, yeah, I'm the type of person to go on a walk when the time is right or the weather's good. And if I didn't feel like I was the type of person to go on a walk, then there would be nothing that would compel me to go out. I would note that the weather was nice, and then maybe even be like, maybe one day I'll go on a walk. But because I'm like, but I'm not the type of person to go on a walk, then I wouldn't do it. I would just say that I was going to do it. And that's a whole disparity that I can get in on another episode of just the difference between talk and action. Oh my God. It eats me alive being like cynical of other people, but also just myself too. I really try to not make promises that I even feel slightly hesitant about because I don't want to be that person, But the reason I talk about this and how important I think it is because I do think that perhaps talking to you again, dear listener, if there's a thing in your life that you don't like about yourself, or perhaps a habit that you don't enjoy, you don't have to just find peace with it. Like, you don't have to just cope and accept something along the lines of like, oh, well, I'm just the type of person that gets their feelings wrapped up in everything. Like, I'm just an emotional person. You don't have to. I don't particularly think that that's an enjoyable existence a lot of the time. And you don't have to accept it. You really can tell yourself, like, well, think back on particular moments and be like, well, maybe I am the type of person who can hold their own, who is good at biting their tongue when I need to. I'm the type of person who can disconnect from my emotions and not let them get the best of me. That emotions particularly are a huge identity thing for myself because I heavily am the type of person that is not emotional. I disconnect myself from my emotions. I do not allow them, to the best of my ability, to be a part of my decision-making process because whether they be good emotions or bad emotions, they will stray you from reality. You'll either get too hopeful and optimistic and unrealistic, or you'll get too emotional, stirred up, pessimistic, irrational, whatever name you. And you consistently make decisions that hinder your progress, if not make you take a step back and then only give you more work to do later to unfuck whatever you just fucked. So all of these things are, all of your habits, all of the ways that you go about life, all of these decisions you make consistently, which turn into patterns, these are all attached to an identity trait. And you can change it. You can say, I'm starting to become the type of person who's like this, or I'm trying to be the type of person who's like this. It doesn't really have to be this like, oh, because you say it, then it's true type of thing. But you really have to change the way you view yourself because, I don't know, I've always had this mindset of your actions define who you are, right? I posted something on my Instagram story, if I can actually pull it up in time. Yeah, it's a Ralph Waldo Emerson quote, which I have actually brought up before, I believe on the episode with Sean. He's an essayist, and he is phenomenal. He has a quote that says, "Your actions speak so loudly, I cannot hear what you're saying." And that absolutely is applicable to how I view other people. I have lived long enough at my ripe age of 27 to be able to tell that most people talk. And most people do not care if it's all talk. They just want to talk. And so I have done a much better job of filtering out that noise, because I was a foolish teenager and I used to believe people when they would talk about the things that they were going to do, or the things that they had done, or the person that they swear they were if the moment arose. Lo and behold, time and time again, I would get disappointed by the lack of alignment with people's words and actions. So I've grown to be more cynical through both positive and negative reinforcement. And now I basically judge people almost entirely on their actions. And I think it's very admirable and wins brownie points for me if your word aligns with your actions. If you're the type of person where your word truly is like truth, then you're one of the few people that I can fully trust what you say. But most people, you gotta filter it out a little bit. You gotta look at their track record of their actions, base that off of what you think they're going to do, and then maybe add the context of what they're saying slightly with a grain of salt. All of this to say that I believe your actions come from your thoughts. Hot take, I know. When a thought populates in your head, that is usually what drives the action. If you're coherent enough or sober enough to where you can track the thoughts. But you got to take it a step further. And I believe that those thoughts come from come from a mindset, I would say. And then I think if you take it a step further, it would be that your mindset comes from your identity, and whether this be the same deep layer or additional deep layer, and your philosophy on life. A lot of people get their philosophy from religion. There are a bunch of people who get their philosophy from a combination of religions or from trial and error in life. Most people, I'm sure if you looked at the pie chart that made up their philosophy, it'd be a combination of multiple things. But I truly believe if you haven't dug deep enough internally, that it's worth doing to figure out what your philosophy on life even is. What matters to you? Why does it matter? How can you justify that? Do you even care if you can justify it? Stuff like that. Because your philosophy carves what you think is important in life, what the whole purpose of life is, why you even do anything. And then from there, you can start to identify with some of those beliefs and traits. And then that identity is what forms a mindset. That mindset is what pumps out thoughts. And those thoughts are directly what influence your actions. And so I don't know. I think it's very heavily worth the internal delve, even if it's scary, because I know a lot of people, the deeper they go inside their own head, the more uncomfortable it is and the more terrified they are. And I empathize with that. Believe me, I've had my own personal crises that I've gone through that put me in a lot of existential dread. So I empathize with that. But if you're the type of person who feels like you cannot change your identity or your mindset, then that's where I think you need to really reconsider or reconcile your philosophy on life. Funny enough, just going through some intro level philosophy exercises, something that perhaps you would get in a college course of Philosophy 101 or something, that alone is enough to kind of shake your foundation and to give you a thread to tug at, to really question why you believe what you believe and if you have good reason to, and all of that stuff. For a lot of people, it seems pointless. You're like, how does this like motionless pondering lead to me getting food on the table, or more money in my paycheck, or less stress in my life? But it really is one of those ripple effect things where we're so caught up in a day-to-day that we don't even notice where all this stuff roots from. But and this is essentially me telling you to go look at the root. If you haven't ever, definitely go look at the root. If you haven't in a while, definitely go look at the root. Because this is what carves your future. I mean, this is what genuinely affects your day-to-day constantly. And your day-to-day is what sums up to become your future. And so, I don't know. All that to say, I really am thankful that I am the type of person that has the type of beliefs and philosophies on life to genuinely believe that I can change my identity of what kind of a person I am, what kind of a person I tell myself I am, what I self-reinforce. And I think that that is the proper starting point for me to actually start making some changes in my life that I really want to see. And I know that so much of it is discipline and consistency. It's like I get so caught up in having days where I move mountains and I just do so much. Like, let's revamp my whole closet in one day. Let's clean every room in one day. Let's completely reinvent the wheel in one day. And as much as I do get some sort of a sense of achievement on days like that, it's just so not sustainable. And I need to get myself in a mode of more consistent small wins, that discipline to every day, no matter what, to make a little move forward, because life is going to march on regardless. You might as well accumulate a mountain of small wins than trying to move a mountain in one day. And going down memory lane with Dylan earlier just proved my point, dude. Like, I'm looking at photos of me as at the end of my childhood, and I'm like approaching my first year as an adult at 18. And I'm like, this was 10 years ago. I remember like the music I listened to. I remember the friends that I would see. I remember the like crushes I had and the places I ate food, and a decade has passed by. And I know some of you are like, damn, Unc. And I understand. And I also know that some of you are like, oh my God, you are 10 years younger than where I'm at. So it's all perspective, and it's healthy to get both. But all that to say, the lesson that I learned is, dude, those 10 years are going to pass. They're just going to pass. You have no fucking say in it. Swallow that pill right now. No say in it. These 10 years are going to pass because 10 have already passed for you. And you didn't even really notice. And so imagine the future that you could have. I'm partly talking to myself here, but imagine the future that you could have if you just accumulated a fucking shit ton of small wins over the course of 10 years. I mean, it is a little sad being like, dang, I didn't do that with the last 3, 5, 7, 10 years. But a little encouraging that you still have so many left to do it. And it's applicable at all ages. I was talking to a friend not too long ago, and she was mentioning how she just doesn't know what she's doing. She's very young. She's much younger than me. And the most effective response that I could really conjure up, summed up into one sentence, is that's fine, but just keep doing. Like, you're going to school, you don't know why, you don't know if it's worth it. That's fine. Keep going. If you're working on a project or you're working out or doing some sort of thing that isn't an overnight success or an overnight win, just keep doing it, even if you don't know what you're doing. Because one day, when you do know what you're doing, you will either A, be very happy that you stuck with it, or B, know that you should stop right then and there. But if you're still unsure, then just keep chipping away. Let future you figure it out. The future you will be very happy that you never stopped. In terms of fitness, I've had about two, I wish they were consecutive, but I have had about 2 1-year stints of consistent gym working out, and I'm thankful for it. I think I have more muscle on me now than had I never done those 2 years. I think if you look at old pictures of me before I was working out, and granted I was young, but man, I was a fucking twig. And so I can't imagine what 27-year-old twig me would have if I was still eating 2 double-doubles every time I went to In-N-Out. I probably would not have a good build. But thankfully I don't fucking hate myself when I look at myself in the mirror that much. And I attribute that to those 2 years that I put in. Very much so worth it. Had I been keeping up with it this entire time, good God, who knows what I would look like. But all that being said, just the 2 1-year stints that I put in over the course of my 10 years now almost as an adult made a world of a difference. Like, even those wins today mattered, even though I wasn't consistent, even though I go through also year stints of not working out. And so I'm really trying to shift my mindset, and I'm really trying to respect my time a little bit more and just really, really get on top of time management. I really want to feel like I have a daily schedule and I stick to it, and I still have open slots for friends and for family and for the people that matter to me. And, the thing that arguably is the most important to me, which is shared love and experience. But I just, I doom scroll too much. I'm on Twitter and Instagram and Reddit and everything in between. I'm on YouTube and playing my little dumb video games during my spare time. And that, God, I'm sure those moments of pointless screen and FaceTime have accumulated to a very large mountain of small sums. And I would very much so enjoy to just dedicate time that normally would be going to that to something productive. And I just need to start being okay with not seeing any progress. And what I mean by that is in real time, day to day. I need to be okay with not seeing any progress on my body if I'm working out. Or I need to be okay with not seeing any progress with how good my meals taste if I start cooking at home. I need to be okay with not seeing any progress on like the quality or the listener numbers on my podcast if I just keep investing more energy and effort into it. That's not why I'm doing it. I'm not doing it to win the game tomorrow. I'm doing it to win a little bit of today and hope that as the days pass without my say-so, that I'll be able to call it a really big win later at some point. And I really hope that this little rant or moment of vulnerability, I suppose, is useful and relatable to anyone who also isn't really making anything particularly creative. Not everyone wants to run a podcast. Not everyone wants to be a YouTuber. Not everyone wants to be an Instagram influencer or name your content creator, or a Twitch streamer or something. Some people just want to be people. I got friends who love 3D printing, and they love making, or they love fishing. And as long as you have some sort of goal in mind, whether it be losing weight or being a better spouse or being a better parent. As long as you can figure out what you want, who you want to be and where you want to go, and break it down into really small, easy steps, and then just be okay with not seeing any progress for a really long time, you're kind of setting yourself up for success. And I think that's been one of my biggest struggles lately, if I'm being very honest with myself, is I haven't been okay with not seeing any progress. I get so used to these huge, chunked out, mega productive days and being able to see my room go from a total wreck, like a tornado hit it, to perfectly pristine and clean and tidied up. That's my idea of progress, is a complete overhaul. And so I feel like if I did something, or I put an effort towards something, or I tried to be quote unquote productive, and if I don't see a difference or any progress, then it was a waste of time. And god damn it, my meter, my measuring stick that I use for progress is so fucked because of that. And so I don't know, I need to take a little bit of a step back and reconsider what progress means to me. We live in this weird hyper growth era where we're so used to things just constantly improving at the speed of light. And that's because there are all of these teams of brilliant people working for different companies, always constantly trying to engineer new products or new ways of life or new services that are just so much more world-shattering than the previous one. And that's understandable because A, these people either want to live in a better world and help people's lives, or B, they want to become mega rich, and that's a great way of doing it. If you can create a revolutionary new product or service and deploy it to the masses at a very rapid rate before competition can keep up, you're going to become a fucking billionaire, especially in today's market. And so it's created this culture of just like this fire hose of new things, and not like pointless new things. You can tell when someone makes a new version of something and they just wanted to slap a new skin on it. There's not really anything fundamentally different or better about this thing that they've made. But it feels like even the new things that we get nowadays, which are, I mean, there's a new product, a new app, a new show, a new movie, name your thing. There's a new thing like every week. And it's just become our culture. It's just become so normal and so like typical. And you never ever see the hordes of hard workers clocking in for 60 hours a week who are the ones pushing this change, because you only pay attention to ChatGPT when a new update comes out. But if ChatGPT doesn't do anything for 3 months, then no one's paying attention to that because they're busy looking at a new show or something Donald Trump said or name your media headline, and only come back around once that crew has put in thousands of hours on a product and pumped out something great. But to you, from your perspective, it's just, I mean, it's been a blink of the eye. They had something new like not so long ago, right? And this new thing is now the next thing that we're talking about. But like, for instance, like I'm waiting, my big like revolutionary thing that I'm waiting on is self-driving cars. I know that that's going to be something we see in our lifetime. I know it's going to change the world completely, put everything on its head, and also somehow still feel not that fucking crazy because we live in such a crazy world. Like genuinely, if next month all of the cars could just drive themselves, people would probably wowed about it for like 2 months, and then they would just go back to normal. It's that meme of an alien descending from the sky and being like, are you not shocked? And the human who is the first to see this alien just going, I got a lot going on this week, man. It's just incredible. It's just so nuts. So I really think this hypergrowth culture has sabotaged a lot of our personal gauges for what success and progress and a win looks like. And I am going to be the first to admit that I am a huge part of that. Like my idea of progress is totally screwed. And that's kind of what this open yap sesh has become, is me trying to figure that out, redefine it, maybe recalibrate myself and adjust so that maybe I have different expectations. I have expectations for media trends. I have expectations for TV shows and movies. I have expectations for new products and services and AI that comes out. And then I have expectations for myself, and they're very different because I am a team of one working on multiple dreams at once, and I can only do so much. And I shouldn't, I don't know, like in the future, if I do achieve all the things that I set out to do, I shouldn't act like they were inevitable. I shouldn't act like, oh yeah, they just happened. Like, I should really give myself the credit of this was hard work. This took a long time. This was not easy. And even though everyone on Instagram will make this, when they do the same things, they'll make it look like it was easy. It's not. And that's okay. So, I don't know. I definitely am a little cognitively impaired because of how tired I am tonight. But I really hope that this has been comprehensible. I hope that you guys have gotten some sort of substance from this. And hopefully someone out there relates to me. In this very moment, they feel like perhaps they are in this rut of inaction with certain goals. And finding that balance becomes priority number one. I also know that involving someone else and adding a sense of accountability is a really good driving factor. Once you know that there are eyes on you and your reputation's on the line, you act different as any normal human being does. But I don't know, guys. Hopefully this is the pivotal moment for me. Maybe this is going to be a checkpoint in the podcast where from here on out you start seeing more effort out of me. Start seeing more interesting guests and more of a better quality of work, maybe more planned out episodes. And that's not to say that I don't find my previous guests interesting. I think most of them are my best friends, so I'd be a liar if I called them not interesting. I think they're phenomenal. But you get what I'm saying, you know. I'm trying to break out of a little bit of the monotony that I feel, and I'm sure some people can sense, and provide something great. And I'm gonna do it eventually, you know, not tomorrow, not immediately, but I'm gonna do it eventually. And the entire goal is that you'll see just a little bit of it being better consistently. But I don't know, guys. I wanted to make this one a little short and sweet. I think 45 minutes is exactly what I was aiming for. So I hope this was I hope this was meaningful to some of you. If this meant absolutely nothing to you and you're still here, I fucking love you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I hope that the next one has something for you. But yeah, I hope you guys have a great week. I hope your Tuesday is treating you well. And if this isn't a Tuesday, then I hope whatever day you're listening to this is treating you well. And if any of you guys want to talk about the stuff that I've talked about before, always feel free to reach out. I love hearing from you guys and will always encourage it. But have a great week, everyone. Thank you for being here, as always. And I will catch you on the next one next week. Bye-bye.